This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Tasmanian salmon giant Tassal is embarking on a landmark partnership with Petuna in an effort to improve the health of the troubled Macquarie Harbour. Both companies will share leases on the west coast, with 12 Tassal workers set to be relocated.
Signing off on a new joint venture in Macquarie Harbour. Tassal and Petuna today announcing the companies will merge salmon farms on the west coast to be overseen by a management committee.
Each of us are going to continue to own our own leases, our own fish, our own pens and infrastructure, and our own employees will be working there. They'll just be doing it under an umbrella of collaboration.
The shift will allow young and old fish to be separated into 2 different leases and will allow pens to be rested for 12 months. It's anticipated to create a healthier harbour and a boost to biomass.
I believe that this is a landmark step for Tasmanian aquaculture industry, reflecting international best practice and biosecurity.
Both businesses insist there will be no job losses, but 12 Tassal staff will be expected to relocate.
There are a small number that have been drive-in, drive-out employees from the harbour that will be offered opportunities in the greater areas, in fact many of them where they have actually come from.
The spirit of the discussion, if you like, has been that the company is going to work with us to get the best outcome possible for the employees that are concerned.
Environmental groups are calling for more details, saying the move is too little, too late. The venture comes just months after disease contributed to a spate of fish deaths.
A responsible operator would have taken measures years ago to stop this catastrophe in the harbour, this disease outbreak, and staff having to leave their home to keep their jobs.
Tasmania's third major salmon player, Huon Aquaculture, was absent from today's announcement, but Petuna is open to discussions.
The doors are not closed for Huon at all. I'm happy to discuss with them when the time is come.
All 3 salmon companies are awaiting a new biomass limit for Macquarie Harbour. A final decision from the Environmental Protection Authority is due in coming weeks. Michelle Wisby, Southern Cross News.
A woman was taken to hospital after being hit by a car while crossing the road in Launceston this morning. The 62-year-old was struck by a man driving a Holden Commodore on Frederick Street. The 49-year-old driver from St Leonard's provided first aid to the woman. She was taken to the Launceston General Hospital in a stable condition. A Ravenswood man who rammed 2 police cars during a pursuit through the streets of Launceston in January has been sentenced to 3.5 years jail. The Supreme Court heard Philip James Standage was on bail and high on drugs when he stole a ute from Riverside, then deliberately evaded police by speeding through the city. Justice Robert Pearce described his behaviour as chaotic and said he put lives at risk. Standage has been disqualified from driving for 7 years. He'll be eligible for parole after serving half of his sentence. New polling data suggests support for the Liberals is sitting steady after winning the state election. Among decided voters, the Liberals gained a point since February's EMRS poll to sit at 47%. Labor's support has dipped 4 percentage points, while the Greens are up to 14%. Will Hodgman is just in front for preferred Premier at 47% to Rebecca White's 41%. Tasmania's newest upper house member has been officially sworn in. The Liberals' Jane Howlett thanking her family after winning the new seat of Prosser by more than 800 votes.
My father, my inspiration, my mum, my aunties, thank you so much for your unwavering support.
The MLC is vowing to help progress legislation on mandatory sentencing for child sex offenders. Latrobe parishioners have heard firsthand exactly how the proposed sale of around 80 Anglican churches across the state will affect them. The Anglican Bishop of Tasmania, the Right Reverend Richard Condy, visiting the area today, hearing alternative ideas of how redress money could be raised.
Its sign tells a message of hope, but some parishioners feel that hope has been lost.
The message coming from the church is very strongly that we don't need a church, but I disagree.
It's proposed all bar one Anglican church within the Latrobe and Port Sorell area will be sold, helping raise the estimated $8 million the church needs as part of the National Redress Scheme.
So far, I think parishes around the diocese understand what we're trying to do. They understand that this is about funding redress for survivors of sexual abuse, and they want to do that.
I think they're doing the right thing the way they're doing it, but it's a bit sad.
Others who have spent their lives worshipping at the church and giving offerings feel shortchanged.
I have great concern in this church, and I actually donated 5 of those stained glass windows, and I have a concern if that was sold, what would happen to them.
Dr Condi says donors will be able to take back what they've given, but Ken Perkins says that's not what he wants.
I want them to stay there. I put them there for a purpose, to dedicate to my mother, who played the organ for over 60 years.
Many churches like this one are on the proposed sale list because they've been deemed unsustainable. A service is only held here at St George's Church once every 2 months, and the Anglican bishop says congregations are tiny. Alternative ideas to raise redress funds are being called for.
I would like to see, as another question in there said, sell off land first and make every effort to keep these churches.
But with the National Redress Scheme to begin on July 1, the church says it will need funds fast.
All the vacant land will go on the sale first, but we need to have the backup of the other properties sold as well.
Properties are expected to go on sale later this year.
We're contacted every day by someone who is interested in buying a church in Tasmania.
Monica Dadson at Southern Cross News.
Pinnacle Road on Mount Wellington will remain closed to the public over the weekend due to structural concerns with underground culverts. The Hobart City Council is continuing its investigations into flood-affected infrastructure. A community clean-up day will target the debris build up in the South Hobart Rivulet this Sunday.
They must register. They must first register. We will be offering them gloves. We ask them to wear appropriate footwear. We also recommend that no children or no animals attend.
Council is urging motorists to be patient around the area, with the nearby McRobbie's Gully tip simultaneously hosting a free drop-off day for residents. A Devonport man who was fatally shot while helping a domestic violence victim has been posthumously awarded the Star of Courage. Members of the emergency services have also been recognised in the special ceremony at Government House.
A prestigious occasion to recognise those who've stepped into the line of duty. A significant honour invested today, Australia's second highest award for bravery. The family of the late Benjamin Ahern accepting the Star of Courage on his behalf.
We're grateful for the fact that those sort of actions are recognised, but it doesn't detract from the fact that Ben lost his life and the family have lost a family member.
In 2011, Mr Ahern came to the assistance of a woman during a domestic violence incident in Devonport. He confronted the woman's ex-partner who was brandishing a weapon and attempted to defuse the situation. When that was unsuccessful, he warned other people to get away before the offender fatally shot him. Mr Ahern's actions described by the coroner as selfless and courageous.
That's our sense of it, and it was the coroner's sense of it. From our perspective, the family's perspective, we're fairly sure that his actions on that day contributed to saving lives.
Also recognised today, our emergency workers. 2 SES members awarded a medal for distinguished service. A timely honour in the wake of last week's storms. Just one of countless times they've helped communities here and across the country in more than 2 decades of service.
And we were flat tack. We had just under 400 requests for assistance, and that's what it's like in a disaster. You get overwhelmed. But by chipping away at it and keeping at it, we got through.
At the end of the day, quite often you just get a simple thank you from people that you've helped, and that means the world. People that appreciate what you've done and say thank you. That's all you really need.
Today, an extra special thank you for champions of our community. Michael Green, Southern Cross News.
And if you need help or support, you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or the Domestic Violence Counselling Service on 1800 RESPECT. A Tasmanian could be sitting on a gold mine as the search begins for the owner of valuable land next to Melbourne Airport. The block was last registered to John Pascoe Faulkner, who worked in Van Diemen's Land before founding Melbourne. The federal government is trying to find out whether anyone has claims to the area, as it's needed to expand the airport.
He owned a huge amount of land in Melbourne. I think he owned something like 8 houses by the end of it. This situation is really probably just a remnant of a tiny amount of it that was never actually sold off.
Faulkner died in 1869 without an heir. If the owner cannot be found, the land will be compulsorily acquired. After months of scouting, a Tasmanian site has been secured to construct a $190 million plantation hardwood mill. The Hermel Group will build the facility on an 80-hectare site off the Ridgely Highway at Hampshire, outside of Burnie, if it's given approval from Council.
We have a lot of work to do with the Burnie City Council. We also have work to do with the EPA, other state departments, including the Growth Department, to be able to get this process done.
This is a very special day. It's a game changer for the timber industry and the Northwest Coast.
Construction is expected to take up to 18 months. 200 people will be employed on site once the mill is built. A new snooker tournament honouring one of the game's greats begins later tonight. The inaugural Ron Atkins Classic features 12 of the country's top-ranked players, with the Tasmanian leading the way.
He's been ranked among the globe's top 100 snooker players. Now, Tasmanian Kurt Dunham is back home as top seed for the new Ron Atkins Classic after spending 2 years on the international circuit.
It's the childhood dream lived out, you know, it's what we used to dream of playing professional, playing on the TV and all that sort of stuff.
The 26-year-old's remarkable rise comes after starting the sport much later than his rivals in Europe.
To be honest, I was probably 4 or 5 years behind some of the people that are there around my age. You know, it's a different lifestyle over there. They're bred to be professionals and they play 6-8 hours a day from when they're 13, 14 years old.
The event is a draw card for the country's best, offering $12,000 in prize money and professional ranking points. For the local snooker community, it's also a chance to honour the late Ron Atkins, who famously finished runner-up in the 1980 World Championship at the Albert Hall.
His contribution to the game Australia-wide was enormous. He was a 3-time Australian champion. He won the Tasmanian Snooker Championship on 16 occasions, 14 of those in a row.
The Classic begins tonight at the Launceston Workers Club, with the final on Sunday. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Historical artefacts from Tasmania's convict past are being washed and examined for further research. More than 10,000 items, including old coins and tools, were excavated from the Kerry Lodge historical site near Breadalbin last month. Included in the find was stone from one of the country's oldest bridges.
It's learning about how the original road from Launceston to Hobart was actually constructed. This is the first bridge crossing, the first water crossing outside of Launceston. So when you're moving towards Hobart, this is the first water crossing.
Tasmanians with a disability joined in today's project as part of an employment pathway program. A new program is helping Tasmanian workers kick their smoking habits. Mission to Quit offers counselling and presentations covering the ways to cut down on smoking. 55-year-old Nikki Gray is one of 14 people taking part in the program.
For me, having a smoke's me time, and I use it as an escape, if you like. So this will be a part of me retuning my mind psychologically and letting myself know that I'm a non-smoker and I need to speak that out.
City Mission is running the program over the next 6 weeks. A Tasmanian tech company has plans to gain a global audience as part of a new partnership. Launceston startup Game Tester provides services to video game developers. The company aims to increase its reach around the globe by joining forces with Smart Mesh.
Right away, we're in 30 cities, so we instantly are a sales force, a virtual sales force for Game Tester to help them enter a whole range of cities.
Start Mesh will provide resources to Game Tester in return for some of the company's equity. Now a look at the day's business and finance news thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed lower, dragged down by Westpac trading ex-dividend and the industrial and healthcare sectors. The ASX 200 index has dropped by 12.7 points. And a short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75.24 US cents and 109.26 New Zealand cents.
With the future of their competition still up in the air, the Tasmanian State League clubs will band together in a strong show of solidarity this weekend in the hopes of sending a clear and concise message to those determining their fate. Normally fierce rivals on the football field, today the TSL clubs stood side by side as a united front. This weekend we'll see players from each club wearing red armbands for the Keep Our TSL round.
This competition is very important. We're all passionate about it, but we're also, in a clinical way, understand why it's so important for the next generation of players coming through.
You try to put in the best environment you possibly can for 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Strength conditioning programs, the video review, all those kind of things.
In the strongest indication yet that the AFL is ready to listen, Kingborough Tigers and North Launceston presidents Paul Godomsky and Thane Brady will travel to Melbourne next week to plead their case to AFL CEO Gillon McLachlan and his steering committee.
It's unprecedented, and I think it's come off the back of the show of unity.
The pair will advocate for the TSL to continue as is, along with a separately funded Tasmanian side in the VFL and Mariners side in the TAC Cup, in a last-ditch effort to salvage the state's elite competition.
Over the last 4.5 years, we've created centres of excellence for football in Tasmania in our own clubs.
If we can get a situation where we have the Mariners, the Devils and a TSL, we'll have close to the best pathway in the country.
But not everyone is on board with the model, with North Hobart recruit and former Melbourne Demon Colin Garland offering his own alternative today.
We do have North Melbourne sitting there with a VFL team. Prop up their VFL and give the 10 to 15 guys down here an opportunity there. I'd probably see that as more viable.
The two presidents fly to Melbourne next Wednesday. Meantime, the stage is set for another fierce Eastern Shore grudge match this weekend, with Lauderdale desperate to get their season back on track following a 94-point drubbing in last weekend's grand final rematch with North Launceston. The Bombers welcome back coach Darren Winter for the clash against old rivals Clarence after serving a 6-week suspension.
The way we've been playing the past few weeks, it's probably not going to cut the mustard. So, we just need to get back to, that sort of bash and crash style that we've played over the previous years with a bit of confidence.
Well, Clarence continue to put the competition on notice, with the Roos hoping to back up their 51-point win over Kingborough after keeping the Tigers to just 1 goal for the match.
Major game for us. Obviously had a good last month, and we get the bye after this weekend, so it's just about going down there with effort and endeavour and making sure we play our brand of footy and know that the contest is coming.
First bounce is at 2 p.m. on Sunday at Lauderdale Oval. After an underwhelming start to the Seabull season, the Hobart Chargers are starting to live up to the hype following another convincing win, and fans can expect a heated clash at the Deck tomorrow night up against the club's biggest Seabull rivals. The Chargers coach has a messy history with Mount Gambier, booted from the 2016 South Conference final loss for shoving one of their players. But following his side's 4th win in a row, Stewart has no plans on being carted in front of his home crowd.
I think the boys are gelling pretty well now, still a few ups and downs, but as I've said all along, the next 4 games now will really test where we're at as far as a group.
Following tomorrow night's game, the side travel to Nunawading the next day to take on the Spectres, who are sitting pretty at 2nd on the league ladder.
It's a tough schedule, but at the same time, the opportunities are great. If we can get to this weekend, that just sets us up for the rest of the year. I think the players know that.
With 4 wins and 4 losses for the season, the Thunder are seeking more consistency from the squad, starting with a win over the Pioneers at home on Saturday night.
We control, the pace of the game on the defensive side and offensive side, so we're in pretty good standards and pretty good high hopes.
To netball, in round 8 of the State League, we'll see 3 local Friday night derbies, including the highly anticipated Northern grudge match between the undefeated Hawks and 2nd place Cavaliers.
But even though we know that they've got a young lineup, their experienced leadership is going to see them through, so we expect anything really.
It's always a big rivalry being the 2 Launceston teams, but in saying that, it could go anyway, and yeah, we look forward to a close and tough match.
Good evening. Around the state today in Hobart recorded 17 degrees, Launceston 15, Burnie and Devonport 16. Campania with 18 on top of the list as temperatures climb closer to average. A cold front brought some showers too, mainly over the west and south. 28 millimetres fell at Mount Reid at 3 p.m. Flinders Island 16 degrees today. Low Head, Friendly Beaches, Grove and Ooze 15. King Island, Smithton and St Helens 14. Strawn atop of 13. Now the cold front moved through with its band of cloud which found its way over most of the state today. Not much missing there. And that's also the same front responsible for the cloud over southern Victoria. Middle cloud is also streaming out over the Tasman. A cool onshore flow pushes more cloud over Victoria and coastal South and Western Australia. Mostly cloud free for the rest of the nation apart from a little over eastern Queensland. The high pressure system persists over the Bight tomorrow with a weakening front over Victoria. Cool breezes as well from the west-southwest and the strongest 20 to 30 knots over the south and lower east in the afternoon, swells to 4 metres. Strong wind warning from Wineglass Bay to Low Rocky Point. And for Hobart tomorrow, we can expect a partly cloudy day, 10 overnight, 15 the top tomorrow, 14 for Huonville with a shower or two, partly cloudy for Campania, 15 the maximum. Launceston early fog but fine, 17, 16 for Devonport and mostly sunny for Georgetown, 17 degrees. Burnie, partly cloudy and 16, showers easing from Strawn, 13 the maximum, 16 the top for Wynyard, while for St Helens tomorrow, partly cloudy and 17, 16 for Swansea after an early shower clears and a shower for Port Arthur, 14 the top. On Saturday, fine apart from showers over the west, central and south. Showers extending statewide late on Sunday morning. More fresh and gusty southwesterlies on the way. And a bit more of the same on Monday with a shower for the west and south. Mostly sunny in Perth tomorrow. A top of 25 degrees there. A baby chick with little skinny legs over Adelaide. We have a few showers forecast for Melbourne. Canberra are into their fog and frost season but fine in the afternoon. Sunny also for Sydney and Brisbane. Little showery over Hobart, 12 at the moment, 12 in Launceston, bit of cloud and partly cloudy in Devonport, 13. This thing that's sweeping the internet, Rachel, Yanni or Laurel. I had to listen to it, it's Yanni. Whoever says it's Laurel don't know what they're talking about.
I never know what I'm talking about and I think it's ridiculous. Thanks for that, Murph. Well, that's all your news for now. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night.